Hello and welcome to this video then on how to write a report in exam conditions. As you can see from the background, this is a very formal style of writing and equally one that's very often used by different companies when requesting you to summarise or make an account of a series or a large amount of facts in some way. So on screen at the moment is the marking criteria for the transactional writing. You can see it's graded in two different ways: communication and organisation on the left, and the vocab, sentence structure, spelling and punctuation appear on the right. The band 5 is the equivalent of grade 8 and 9, and at the bottom there is band 3, and then down below that's band 2. Band 3 is kind of your grade 4 and grade 5, so your basic pass grade. As you can see then, you want awareness of the task and the intended audience needs to be there. It needs to be organised and shaped with supporting detail, and it needs to be correct for the purpose of the writing, in this case report writing. On the other side then, that's the vocab, sentence structure, spelling and punctuation. You need a variety of different sentences, your short ones as well as your long ones. A range of punctuation is needed for any grade that's a pass or better. And you can see most spelling, including that of regular words, is correct. So all in all, it needs to be suited to target audience and purpose, as well as being written fairly well. You can see an example of the report on the board, just to give you a rough idea of what's expected. A report often begins with a summary at the start of why the report needs to take place, and it's very, very fact-based. This is one of the newer sections of the GCSE. It's one of the new sort of types of writing they've thrown in for the modern era as they see it, and possibly the most useful to know for a future career. Most jobs with responsibility will require some form of report writing. There are two different kinds: a newspaper report, which you've had experience of writing before, and more formal reports, which are reports to companies, the bank, shareholders, or indeed customers. Your school, for example, your school is keen to raise money for extra equipment. Write a report for the Parents Association giving information about what the school needs urgently and why, and suggestions how the money could be raised. That box then, in a kind of light browny colour at the bottom of your screen, gives an example exam question of how a report should look in exam conditions. They give you a short account of what the report needs to be about. It'll normally be to a formal organisation or a business manager or headmaster or headmistress of some kind, and then they handily give you 2 bullet points to guide your response. What you do is look at those 2 bullet points and think they're 2 halves then of the same essay. The first half of a formal report would say what the current situation is. The second half might give suggestions to what could be done or what could be improved. Again, there is an example on the left hand side that gives an idea of roughly what this would look like, what's been considered as part of that report, and then what should happen next. You'll notice just from this first page alone that there are loads and loads of percentages and facts in this response. So very, very fact driven. And yes, there are bullet points, but they aren't normally just one sentence. In many places they are at least explained in potentially more than one sentence. Okay, that's then a summary of what report writing is. Now at this point you might have considered that a report is fairly difficult to write because it's fact driven, and these facts will often be half made up by yourselves. The exam board will always try and ask you to write a report about something you know, so something that's likely to be very local community based or even school based. To summarise what we've covered so far, I'm now going to show you a mini video then about report writing.
A report is a record of an investigation and the outcomes. There are many different kinds of reports, and they can be written for various purposes, such as documenting experiments and testing, presenting solutions to a problem, or helping to give recommendations.
Mastering report writing is key to your success at university and in the workplace. Here are some tips for writing good reports.
Analyze the brief to establish which type of report you need to prepare. Depending on the type of report, there are different ways to organize and sequence the information.
Identify the problem statement, which is the central question, hypothesis, or problem you're investigating. Follow this with some research questions or aims for your investigation.
Keep accurate records of all your readings and notes, such as your methods for collecting data, the data you collected, how you analyzed it, and your conclusions about the findings.
Establish a clear structure for the whole report. Drafting a table of contents will help you list your headings or topics and related subheadings in a logical order.
While writing each section, stay on track by revisiting the original brief and the original problem statement. This will keep your writing focused and relevant.
Clear visuals are important in reports. Make sure they are all linked to the text and have useful descriptive captions.
Carefully edit and proofread your report. The best writing comes from rewriting.
Feedback from peers can also be helpful.
If you need help with report writing, remember that the Learning Center has great online resources and offers workshops and individual consultations.
There you go then. The takeaway from that then is that yes, it's very fact driven and also needs to be pretty structured. An introduction, a summary of why the report was needed, what the report found out, and equally conclusions or suggestions for the future were all bullet pointed earlier in that video. Some typical features then of a report. It normally has an impersonal style. You don't often give your opinion in a report, it's purely fact-driven. It represents the viewpoints of a number of people. You're not writing as yourself, you're writing from the company's perspective or the customer's perspective. It's usually directed at an official leader, i.e. some kind of governing board. A report heading is always at the top. For example, reporting on the eating habits of Year 7 students. For a formal report, you're not talking anything flashy or exciting like a newspaper heading, you're just simply documenting what the report is going to be about. The recipient of the report is always at the top as well. So for example, to the Board of Governors might be the opening sentence. You then give an account of who is sending the report in your introduction. So it's very similar to a letter, I suppose. You say where the report is going to, who's the recipient, and then you say who has created the report, who has summarized the report, who's found out the data that you're talking about. Is it from a customer survey? Is it from a SurveyMonkey style questionnaire, and your report is a summary of the questionnaires findings? Is it then a report that's being sent from a body or group of people? The report would have subheadings, just like a newspaper report would, and it would have conclusions or recommendations at the bottom. For example, future actions that you would suggest to the company to improve still further. You'll work out then that a formal report is a little bit like a letter in places, but also very much like a newspaper report as well, just a super formal version of both. In fact, report writing is probably the most formal style of writing you could be asked to do. Here is then an example exam question. Your school is keen to raise awareness of internet safety. Write a report for the Parents Association giving information about what the problems associated with internet safety are and suggestions how the school could raise awareness. The examiner then doesn't make the task look easy. They want an official, formal report. They have used tricky ways of wording the question. If you think about what's being asked, it is for parents are the main audience here. They are the recipients of this report. They've given two parts of the question rather than the normal one. So as you can see, there are 2 bullet points for the 2 halves of your response. That isn't to say it's 2 paragraphs. You'd still have an introduction, then paragraph 2 would be bullet point 1, paragraph 3 would be bullet point 2, and then you'd add a short conclusion on the bottom or summary statement along the bottom. Here then is how I might plan this response. I've taken both bullet points and put them at the top of the heading there in dark blue. I've then underneath put 3 things I can say in response to each bullet point in the question. So the first bullet point read, what are the problems associated with internet safety? And I've gone therefore, students are at risk of online bullying, some websites are not suitable to be used in school, and free access will prevent positive learning. Equally, on the how we could improve or raise awareness, I've put a poster campaign, school zone red button to alert the head, and fundraisers or assemblies would also be useful. So you can see 3 bullet points on each side that would form my 2 main paragraphs in the middle of my response. Notice these are all realistic points that would be suitable for a formal report. This is where the grade 6 or better answers come from. The points are things that parents care about and they're not too extreme or antagonistic, i.e. there's no mentions of over 18 violence, etc. So I've tried to be quite genuine in that response. I've tried to think exactly what the real problems about internet safety are, the ones that would be at the forefront of parents' minds. Internet safety, of course, is a very hot topic at the moment, so this could easily be the actual question you're set in the exam, being something that's quite high in the public domain or quite well known at the moment. Now let's look then at a different exam style question. Your school is keen to raise money for extra equipment. Write a report for the Parents Association giving information about what the school needs urgently and why, and how the money could be raised. Again, 2 bullet points then indicating the 2 main sections of my response. Here is then how this response might begin. Report to the Parents Association of Uplands Community College. That will be the name of the school then that is producing the report. And it's regarding, or RE, extra school equipment. So that's the topic or the focus of the report. The Student Council believes Uplands Community College is now deficient in some key equipment needed for students. Findings include a need for improved sports equipment, new stage lighting, and a refurbishment of the girls' toilets. Additionally, the report includes some fundraising ideas to be shared with the PTA or Parents Association in order to make the necessary improvements. Notice there it summarises what the report's about and what basic areas are included in the report. This then is a much higher grade example to the same question. This is a grade 7. Think about how this example then is better than the first one. We still have the beginning, report to Parents Association, and then we've still got what it's about, additional school equipment. But as I wrote this response, I was also thinking about the other things I'll be graded for. After all, this is not just a report, it is one that's being assessed at GCSE. So I can't just forget all the range of punctuation and the sentence constructions that I know I'm also being graded for in my answer. In short, it's not just about what I write, it's about how I write it as well. It is well known that, open brackets, thanks to budget cuts across the public sector, schools are finding it harder and harder to find funds to support pupils of all abilities, colon. This is a matter that we all take seriously. Among other things, the equipment that a modern secondary school is available is key to sustaining progress. The Student Council has strived to find out equipment that may be deficient. Here are our findings. There is a need for improved sports equipment, a new or modern stage lighting to allow for dramatic productions, and a subsequent refurbishment of the girls' main toilet facilities. The report, conducted and compiled by the Student Council, will contain evidence to the level of decay to equipment and facilities in the above areas and advice and ideas on the impact such improvements would have. Notice then use of brackets there, use of semicolons, a higher range of punctuation, but equally my word choices have been given a bit of thought as well. So I simply used a thesaurus to up my vocab bank or up my vocabulary level to make my answer seem a lot more formal and a lot more official than perhaps the grade 4 or grade 5 example did. So now we're going to talk through an example of a report before having a look at another exam question you could attempt yourself. We're going to develop the style and effects as we go. This is going to be a 6-part plan for how to respond to a report writing task. In many ways, just like any transactional writing, it's all about thinking through the question first and coming up with some relevant and interesting ideas that you can include. In this case, though, we're given 2 bullet points to help already, so that does give us a flavour of roughly what they're looking for. Other easier transactional writing questions don't give us quite this much help. You can see 2 possible tasks on the screen at the moment in our 2 column headings. One, the local council are keen to deal with local traffic issues. They would like you to compile a report to cover the following: what local traffic problems are, suggestions how these problems can be solved. And example question 2, the head has asked the student council to report on after-school activities the school offers. The report should include the following: what the school currently offers and what could be improved next year. Both of these then are realistic reports that a school or a local council might ask for. You can see, first of all, then, we start by a plan. Now, this is very similar to the one I've already mentioned, i.e. 3 bullet points to support each of the key parts of the question. So I'm going to answer the one about traffic, and you could then plan your own response to the option on the right about after-school activities. So when I talk about local traffic problems, I could talk about congestion along the roads, lots of lorries and fumes outside the houses, and noise pollution. Some suggestions for what could be the outcomes of the report: speed bumps, lorry ban, and tarmac on the roads that makes less noise. Please now spend a bit of time by pausing this video to pause and plan out your own response to the question about school activities. This then is step 1, the plan. Step 2 would be my introduction or my opening. Notice it's very simplistic, no need for addresses etc. here. I would start by saying who the report is to. I use the capital R for the word report and then a colon before I actually write who it is actually for. In this case, my traffic question, the local council, comma, traffic section. I then put RE colon, so regarding is what that stands for, and then what the topic actually is. Traffic in the Wadhurst area in this case. In my case, I am in Wadhurst, so that is my local area, so that's what I'm going to talk about. Please now plan out your own introduction or opening to your after school activities question. Step 3, we now talk about, in a short intro paragraph, the purpose for the writing. Here once again is my example for my traffic question, again at the top left of the screen. Over recent years, Wadhurst has become overrun with traffic, making its way from Kent to Tunbridge Wells. The local parish council is asked to document behaviour of traffic in the area and forward findings to the local council. This will be set with current issues addressed and a clear account of actions to take in the future. The statistics show there is more traffic in the area than ever before. So a short account of what's going to be in the report and what's going to be stated at the end of this report. There's a brief mention there of statistics as well. Please now, using this as an example, write your own introduction paragraph to the question on the right regarding after-school activities. Now we move on, of course, to step 4. This is one of our first main paragraphs, one of the longer paragraphs, another way of putting it, that's going to clearly address bullet point number 1 in the exam question. In this case, what the local traffic problems are. The statistics below have been compiled between the months of March and April 2016 and represent a picture of traffic flow in and around the Wadhurst area. Among features noticed are as follows: semicolon, using a higher range of punctuation, increased number of cars stopping outside residents' houses, increased litter as passengers choose to dump their debris out of the windows, and increased anger of local residents as they are exasperated by the need to get out of their own driveways in the morning. Notice my use of the semicolon there for a longer list, and I've also used a couple of other engaging techniques as well. Dump their debris gives me high-level vocab for debris, as well as DD for alliteration as well. You've also noticed there I've got the word exasperated. Local residents aren't annoyed, they're exasperated. So I've shown off a bit there my range of vocab too. Yet, this is not the only problem, Increased volume of traffic has also led to more fumes and exhaust pouring into people's homes, including the local nursery, which is on the roadside seats to the traffic outside. Our neighbourhood is a scene of chemical warfare. Most agree that something needs to be done. In addition, the cars, bikes and lorries create a noise level of 9 decibels at its peak, a level above national guidelines. I've used a bit of what I know about noise levels there to help me write my response, and that just happens to be that I knew it beforehand. So feel free to use your own actual knowledge studied in science or geography or history, or indeed your experience of the school itself, to allow you to write a better response. Treat it, in short, as if it's a real report rather than just one that you're writing for exams, but make sure, again, it's well written as you do so. Step 5 then would naturally address then the second bullet point, suggestions to how these problems could be solved. Now originally I planned for 3 bullet points or 3 answers to this, and you'll notice loosely they form the sort of long bullet point / longer paragraphs on the screen. They're more than 1 sentence each, so I'm not then just simply adding short sentences each time, and I've explained each one. But that doesn't take away from the fact that these are still fairly short paragraphs compared with the last paragraph I wrote, or paragraph 2. National guidelines serve as a useful benchmark for local residents to dictate what they would like to see happen in their community. The traffic levels need to be decreased, and after further study, this panel has come to the following conclusions. The recommendation that speed bumps be introduced to the road surface to ensure transitions between key areas flow easily. For example, statistics from nearby Ticehurst suggest that neighbourhood watch programmes and other methods of slowing traffic do have a positive impact. This can happen in Wadhurst as well, although the thinking that such methods are tiresome, there is no denying that they lower congestion and, in fact, save lives in the local community. So notice there I've linked to the fact I'm writing to the local council and thinking what they care about. Well, the number of accidents they have in the local community and lowering that rate would definitely be something that appeal to them. And I've used that thinking in my response here when talking about the introduction of speed bumps. I then move on to my second planned bullet point. A lorry ban could also be suggested, as this deters heavy goods vehicles from rumbling along our community streets, thereby ensuring that children are safer on the roads of their local community. Finally, the addition of tarmac on the more treacherous stretches of roads may be advisable, as this will lower noise levels. The smaller amount of air squeezed from the road surface, the less noise there will be. The fact validated by local scientists and pressure groups. Notice I'm linking there to respected people, local scientists, that back up my position or my views to what could happen next. Notice I've deleted may not be a bad idea in that example to show that I'm trying to keep my level of formality as high as possible. So I'm not giving casual suggestions as if I'm talking to the local council. I'm making a formal report. So I put, rather than may not be a bad idea, I've changed that to may be advisable, really thinking about the formality of what I'm writing. Please now take the time to do step 5 for your own exam question based around school activities. And lastly, I finish with a conclusion. In conclusion, the modern world has produced modern traffic problems and needs modern out-of-the-box solutions. We hope this report serves as a reminder of the concern of the community and a starting point for future actions, reported by Wadhurst Community Action. You can see a short 2-sentence summary then of what needs to be done and what the report has gathered, and then reported by, just like a newspaper report, except reported by : and then who is reporting. That would not be your name in there. That would not be your name. It would be simply who you represent. So pupils at the school, perhaps if you're talking about the after-school activities, pupils of Uplands Community College might be actually what you write at the bottom there, rather than just your actual individual name. Remember, you're often writing on behalf of a group of people rather than just yourself. So hopefully at this point then you've worked out that report writing, that is formal report writing, is very different from writing a newspaper report. A newspaper report, although based on facts, often exhibits some kind of opinion. A formal report is much more business-like. A newspaper report is telling the target audience about an event, the details of the event and the key points that are interesting about it. Its aim is to sell newspapers, so it will deliberately be engaging and interesting to read. A business or academic report is more factual and unbiased. It is still persuasive, but not based on exaggeration. A key difference between the two, then, is that a newspaper report will try and change your opinion or emotional state. A business report or formal report will tell you the facts, but leave you to make up your own mind based on the topic given. A newspaper will present a problem, whilst a report might attempt to solve it. To give an example then, here are two questions. Think which one is the formal report and which one is the newspaper report. Look at the keywords of the question. Think about what actually is the purpose of the writing that you've got to do. A second example then, again, think through which one is asking for facts and suggestions and which one is asking for a story of some kind. Thank you very much then for listening to this revision video based on transactional writing, how to write a report in exam conditions.